Hey guys, my name is Toby and today we're going to be taking a look at how to do difficult selections inside of Photoshop. So when I say a difficult selection, I mean anything like hair or grass, or in this case we've got this little puppy and its fur. So there's two elements of this that make this a difficult selection. Firstly, we have all of this really fine detail, and trying to do this by hand will just be beyond impossible, because you've got just A, all the fine detail, B, you've got lots of semi-transparency going on, and I don't think it is possible to do it by hand even if you did have all the time in the world. So that's a problem. The other problem is the ears, because they're actually they're not semi-transparent, they are out of focus, which means that you'd have to do a soft selection or something like that, which by hand again is going to be a bit of a nightmare. So fortunately Photoshop does actually have a tool which will let us do this quite quickly and quite easily, but it's kind of tucked away, so I think it's often one of these ones that people don't know about, so I thought it was good to kind of spotlight it in this video. So in order to use it, we first of all need to use the Quick Select tool, which is W on the keyboard. And I'm just going to make a really rough selection of this dog, no pun intended. And I think that's done a reasonably good job, good enough for what we're doing. But what you're going to see, even though we've used this Quick Select tool, it's not gotten all of the detail, it's kind of missed bits off, it's included bits of the background that we don't really want in there. And it's just, it could be better, shall we say. So how do we go about kind of improving this selection? Well, you do that by going up to Select, Refine, Edge. And the keyboard shortcut for this is Command-Alt-R or Control-Alt-R if you're on the PC. And that's one of the shortcuts that I do recommend remembering, because I use this all the time. So here we are in the Refine Edge window, and it's going to kind of just isolate our selection onto a different background, and you can put this on a few different ones. You can have it as an overlay, you can have it as the marching ant still, but I think on this instance we're going to do it on black, just so we can kind of see really clearly what we're doing, because we have quite a light subject. It just makes that more clear what's actually going on. And what we need to do, if you haven't already got this selected, you need to make sure this brush tool here is selected, and this is just like any other brush tool. You can make it bigger and smaller using the square bracket keys, and what we're going to do is just kind of start to paint over this edge, and we just want to make sure that any extra little hairs and stuff that we want included are covered by this brush tool. So before I let go of it here, I'm just going to explain what this is kind of doing, because at the moment it has everything kind of highlighted, and including the background. But when I let go of this, this is basically telling Photoshop, the area that I've just painted, I want you to reanalyze this, and it's going to do a really good job at capturing all of that detail and just making sure it's included in our selection. And we can basically just kind of go around the edge of the whole image and do this really. You just want to make sure it overlaps. Anything you want included needs to be covered by the brush, otherwise it won't be in there. So there's a bit of fur that sticks out there, so I'm just going to paint out a little bit more for that one. And I think that's done a pretty good job, and we'll just do the same thing on the other side. And just like that, we have a pretty solid selection. Now we're just going to flick this over into one of the other view modes, so we'll do it back on white, and we might see there's a couple of problem areas. So we've got like this little bit here, which is kind of, it's actually capturing a bit of the background there. So the way we're going to get rid of that, and any of these other sort of slightly speckly dotted areas that kind of go all the way along, we're just going to add a little bit of contrast to our selection, and that's going to kind of get rid of most of that. We could also add a tiny amount of feathering, so I'm going to bring this up to like about half a pixel, maybe 0.3 is probably enough. Yeah, and that's just going to slightly smudge together some of these more nasty looking areas. And the only other thing that we could do to this is we could do decontaminate colors, because at the moment it's kind of gone to like this weird kind of grey that hasn't really worked. So I'm going to hit decontaminate colors, and I'm just going to bring the amount up a little bit. And this is going to try and, because if I bring this all the way down, you can see that's the black of the background bleeding into our selection. If I bring this up, it's going to try and work out what the background is and remove that color. So it's actually making it quite a lot lighter, which is kind of what we want. And I think that's going to do pretty good. And this is going to create a new layer with a layer mask. So it won't be able to just add this to our existing layer. It's going to sort of duplicate it, and we'll go from there. So now we have our new layer. It's turned off the background and we have a mask. So if I hold down Alt and we click our mask, we can kind of see the shape of the mask in pure detail, and it's still missed a couple of bits here, which, because it's a mask, we can just come in here with the brush tool and paint with black and just kind of get rid of that. So, you know, any really problematic areas, you can still come in by hand and just kind of touch it up. So for instance, I don't think that this should be semi-transparent along that bit. I can see some grey sort of speckling going on there. So we could, if we use a nice soft brush, we'll just come in here and just make sure that that doesn't go quite so transparent as it goes through. Same there. And there's a few bits here which just need a little bit of work, just to make sure that they don't show through all the way. You know, I mean, a lot of the time you won't need to do this. This is just, sometimes it can be worth going into the mask and just checking that it hasn't made a mess of it, basically. But generally this tool is great. It works really, really well. So if I go ahead and I just add a quick new layer, and we'll just add, I don't know, let's take a color from him. We'll go for like a deep orange, maybe something like that. We'll just add that, and you can see he's nice and cut out, and now we have a little dog at the bottom of our frame. So I think that is just about going to do it this time, guys. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Toby, and we'll see you next time.